So welcome everyone, I'm T. Caudron, and you guys are at the Plant-Powered Keto information session for Vitality Wellness, and I am thrilled that you all came out on this rainy night. There must be something here, huh? Yeah, totally. So for those of you who don't know me, I've been teaching nutrition classes in the Bay Area for the past 10 years. And my specialty has been group programs and making changes structural in people's nutrition with programs so that they can really get fast results that are tangible. We use this metabolic scale over there for people that weighed in tonight that helps measure progress. And so it's been an amazing ride. Hi, Sandy. If you guys would turn your phones off, put them on stun, that would be awesome. So it's been an amazing ride being able to take people through 14-day and 30-day programs and to be able to get such incredible results in such a short amount of time. And in August, I started doing some research on ketogenic diets because some of my athlete friends were using ketogenic diets to increase their performance. And this, Janice, made me think of you. It was in the endurance athlete world. And basically, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what a ketogenic diet is in a minute, but the idea, and it was after the Tour de France that I started reading about it, but these athletes were using ketogenic diets to access a different kind of fuel source that was a longer cleaning, burning fuel source. And I also started to read research about how effective ketones were, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, for the brain. And I've been on a quest for the past 2 years. I was diagnosed with adult ADD, and anyone who knows me really well knows that I have trouble getting out the door. It takes me a long time, and getting in places, and if you talk to me while I'm trying to do something else, I'm only half there. And even though I can get super focused when I'm really into something, if it's something logistical, it takes me 10 times longer than it takes anybody else. Well, not anyone else, but other people are like me. But so I was really wanting something for my brain. And so for myself, I wanted to start looking at a ketogenic eating style to see how that would affect my brain. And in the process of that research, I came across a supplement, and that supplement made such a profound difference for me that I decided I wanted to create a whole class, not just for me, but for my community, to be able to bring a ketogenic eating style to you, and you could see how it worked for you. So I'm going to back up and give you guys some definitions so that you can kind of get a sense for what I'm talking about. So how many people know what ketosis is, or a ketogenic eating style? If you've heard of that word before, could you raise your hand for me just so I have an idea? Okay. And if you've heard of it but you're not really sure what it means, raise your hand. Okay, perfect. I love that that was half of the half. And then there's some people who haven't heard. So your body is actually like a Prius. So it has part of it that burns on glucose and burns on your food and makes fuel from that. But then there's a whole other system that burns on fat. So that fat could be the fat that's in your diet, but it could also be the fat that's on your body. So you actually have this ability to go back and forth between the two systems. Now, in modern age, in a modern diet, most of us don't ever go into the fat burning mode. Right? So who here will admit, if you want to, that if you go, say, 3, 4, 5 hours without eating, that you start to get that hangry feeling, that hungry, angry feeling, right? I love it. Love the nods. Awesome. And especially athletes. Actually, the more people work out sometimes, the more their bodies just burn through that glucose really quickly, and it leaves them feeling really depleted. Now, how our bodies were designed is that when your body gets low on glucose, it's actually designed that then you could flip into burning your fat for fuel. So when you're what I call keto adapted or fat adapted, you can go long stretches without eating and not feel like it actually affects your energy or your mental clarity. You can actually get super stable, and you can actually start feeling even better than you felt before, which is very counterintuitive. And that's actually what Anne was experiencing, because she was several days into a fast and she had done the Vitality program before that. So you were already set up with your system in a really good spot before you started fasting. So how many of you have done a fast before, like a complete fast or juice fast, and found that after a particular period, there's always an induction period, but after that period you started to feel amazing? Raise your hand. Okay? And how many people did it and felt awful? Raise your hand. Did anyone? Okay. So a few years ago, I did a juice fast. It was a while ago. It was my first juice fast, and I used some combinations that had fruit juice in them. Like there was watermelon in it and a few other juices. I literally was homicidal. It was messing with my blood sugar and taking it down in this way that was awful. Janice, you're nodding. Has that happened to you too? It was really bad. So later, when I started using intermittent fasting and juice fasting in a different way, I found out the reason that made me feel so bad was because there was too much sugar in that for my system. It was spiking my blood sugar up and crashing it down. So when you don't do that though, and you just have a period of fasting where you might be having broths or you might be having green juices, once you break past a certain point, most people start to feel really good because their bodies actually pop into this state of ketosis where their body actually starts to burn its own fat for fuel. And ketones, which are the outcome of that, so when you burn fat, your body produces ketones. It's an energy source. Ketones actually have a host of research behind them, like 100 years of research about all of these amazing properties that they do. So I have a list for me, it's my cheat sheet that's on the back of this container, and I'll tell you guys more about it later, but some of the things that are in the research around the effect of ketones are things like fat loss, right, which especially abdominal fat loss, I mean, who doesn't want that, especially right now, right? Fast and sustained energy. Now, my experience is that when I'm in ketosis, my energy is not fast. It's actually a much more grounded energy, but it has a lot of endurance to it, especially my brain functioning. So it's for me, it's a more stable, clear energy that can be sustained for a long time. Increased awareness and increased focus. Those are really big ones that I've experienced. Anyone in the room here who has been playing around, have you experienced that too? Yeah, big time. Appetite suppression, that's a great one for compliance on your eating program. Because if your appetite is suppressed, it's so much easier to make a choice that's really gonna feel good for your body, as opposed to when you're so hungry, right, that you feel like you're starving. Has anyone been there before, right? And then you make all kinds of bad choices, right? Usually standing up, it goes together. Okay, maybe that's just me. Strength gain, better mood, decrease in inflammation. You're going to hear from Dr. Robert in a little bit about how he's seeing that in his practice, which is an amazing result. Better sleep. Dr. Robert's wife has been having that. We'll hear about that. Better digestion and gut health and clear skin. So those types of results kind of sound like the Holy Grail, right? It's sort of like, it sounds like that's too good to be true. So why wouldn't we know more about how to get those results nutritionally? And the reason is that to get into ketosis, it generally takes about 3 to 4 weeks of a really strict regimen that's very low carb or includes fasting. And how many of you have heard of or done a program like Atkins before? Could you raise your hand if you have, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And tested myself over too.
Right, to test for your ketone levels, right? And in Atkins, in the traditional Atkins, in the first week, the induction period, you eat all animal products and dairy. So it's like literally like when I would think Atkins, I would think like really unhealthy. Because from my Vitaliti head, the idea of all that dairy, which so many people have an intolerance to, and all that animal protein, which produces an acidic ash in the body and can be really hard to digest, that just sounded really bad. Now, as I kept researching ketogenic diets, I realized that Atkins and the way that I had thought of it is actually not what I would even call a ketogenic diet. So a ketogenic diet is one that gets your body to produce ketones, and it's a high fat, so that's the key, it's a high fat, low carb, moderate protein diet. Now, the way that you get there, how to make a well-formulated ketogenic diet, that's been what my mind has been fixated on over the past 2 months as I've been getting ready to roll out this new program. So from the Vitaliti perspective, what would be a well-formulated ketogenic diet? Now, back to the issue of how long it takes to get into ketosis. 3 to 4 weeks of really restricting carbs and doing some fasting, that does not sound like a lot of fun, does it? Right? And so it's not something that most people really stick with long term to get into that, but it might be something that people do short term or people do therapeutically, like if they have a condition that really, where ketones would really help that condition. So in athletic circles and therapeutically, they've been researching ketone esters, which is your body produces ketones, and this is a form of ketone that is a supplement that you could take. And I remember listening, has anyone heard of Tim Ferriss? He wrote The 4-Hour Body, yeah. And how about Dave Asprey and Bulletproof Coffee? Has anyone heard of Dave Asprey? Okay, a few people, right. So I was listening to a podcast by Tim Ferriss where he was interviewing Dr. Peter Attia. And I love Dr. Attia, if any of you are familiar with his work, but he was talking about, Peter Attia, this was a few years ago, talking about ketones and wanting to use ketones on his own body to biohack his own body and use them for athletic performance. And he said that they tasted so bad that they tasted like jet fuel. Like literally, like he said, if I ever drank, Mark would know, but maybe not drinking it. He said it's what I would imagine diesel fuel would taste like. And yet he drank them anyway because he wanted to see how they would impact his athletic performance and some of his other markers. And similarly, therapeutically, medically, ketone esters have been used on a variety of different conditions, and they've been studied for many years. So the trick to bring it to the consumer market was that they tasted so bad that nobody really would want to take them as a supplement. So in the end of October, as I was in the middle of this research phase, I found a product that was a supplemental ketone, but that tasted really good. And you guys all sampled it. It tastes like an orange dreamsicle. Did anybody not try it tonight? Okay, so Claudia, would you do me a favor and just bring some around? Because there are a few people that didn't try it. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So there's a caffeinated and a non-caffeinated version of this product, and we're passing out the non-caffeinated just so people know. And our experience with it so far, everyone's a little different, but our experience is that for people who are sleep deprived and really need to sleep and have adrenal fatigue, it will actually help you sleep and sleep deeply. But if you've just been kind of bored and a little fuzzy, it will actually help your brain focus more and give you more energy from the standpoint of a focused clarity in your mind. So just so that you guys know, we're not giving you something that would keep you up, and we're not giving you something that would mess with your 7 o'clock fasting. So it's excluded from that, which is awesome. So what I decided to do for our January program is combine a ketogenic eating style that is more plant-based. So it still has animal products in it, but it's more plant-based. And it includes some of the important elimination aspects that we did in Vitaliti in the Reset and Zippy programs. So very limited forms of dairy, like experimenting with things like ghee, which are like a clarified butter, but not going so far as to bring back lots of cheese or milk or those kinds of things. So very limited amounts. And then using some plant-based forms of protein in addition to animal protein for people that want to use animal protein. And then in the second phase of our program, introducing intermittent fasting and teaching people how to do that, because the research on intermittent fasting, like Donna would know, it is absolutely mind-blowing. So I'll just share with you guys a little research that I came across last year. And Dr. Robert and I have been playing with intermittent fasting for a year now. It's been awesome. But so they gave these mice the same exact diet, so same exact calories, same macronutrients, everything the same, but one group had access to the food for 24 hours, and the other group only had access to the food for 8 hours. So same exact food, same calories, just a different time span. So in my Reset and Zippy programs, we already started to add structured fasting to them, but in a very small way, right? Just an overnight fast. But this research, the mice that were restricted to only eating for 8 hours, they actually lived 30% longer. Like, that is really, really significant. And the mice were very lean mice versus the mice that ate the same food but ate for 24 hours, like they just were allowed to eat whenever they wanted to for 24 hours, but no more food than the group that ate for 8 hours. Those mice were obese, most of them. So isn't that interesting? Yeah. So one of the things that was going on for those mice who are actually metabolically similar to humans, which is why they do mice studies, is that when you eat really frequently, your insulin levels are not able to go down, because insulin is that hormone that helps turn your food basically into energy for your cells. And when insulin is elevated, then your body stores fat. It's not able to burn it. Whereas the mice that had that longer fast, their insulin levels would fall during that longer fast, and their bodies would start to go into the dual fuel mode and start to burn fat for fuel, and that actually increased their lifespan. So you can think of glucose, which is what you get when you break down carbohydrates and protein. You can think of glucose as a dirty fuel, kind of like gas, like it produces inflammation because it causes insulin to be elevated. So it's not a clean burning fuel. And then you can think of ketones as a clean burning fuel, sort of like in a hybrid car, that would be the electric part that comes from the sun. So when people or mice are on ketones, I would say the mice, they're living longer than when they're primarily on glucose. Does that make sense to everybody, just at a high level? So the trick for me as a practitioner was, how do I make this easy? Because I'm big time into the easy button, which I should have brought my easy button. Do you have one here? No, okay, I should have brought it. Because then I would hit it and it would go, that was easy. So, right, so how do we make intermittent fasting easy? How do we make doing a low carb diet easy? How do we make those things easy so that we can actually get the benefits of ketones in our system, but actually make it easy? So the easy button that I've been practicing with, and a lot of people in the room have been practicing with, is a brand new supplement, and it's called Keto OS, and it stands for Ketone Operating System. And it was developed as part of a study funded by the Department of Defense, where they were helping Navy SEAL divers, because when the SEALs were diving, and they were diving super deep, some of them were having seizures. And so they were trying to figure out what could they do to prevent the seizures, and they were using nutritional interventions and specifically using a ketogenic diet. So when the divers had elevated levels of ketones, their brains weren't seizing at the same rates that they seized when they didn't have ketones. Does that make sense to everybody? So then the question became, if it took 3 to 4 weeks to get them into nutritional ketosis so that they had enough ketones to protect their brain, was there a way to biohack them into ketosis faster with a supplement? And so they got a form of a ketone, which is called beta-hydroxybutyrate. And beta-hydroxybutyrate is the name of one of the ketones that your body produces. So it's an organic compound that your body produces. And they bonded it to something called a medium chain triglyceride. And has anyone heard of the nutritional benefits of coconut oil? Raise your hand if you've heard about, oh yeah, a lot of you. So that's the other thing that's big in the athlete community and big in the brain community is coconut oil. And the reason is that coconut oil has a lot of medium chain triglycerides. So that's the type of fat that's in it. And medium chain triglycerides are processed the fastest of all the fats into ketones. So your body loves to take medium chain triglycerides and turn them into ketones. So you can think of fats as not being equal, the same way we've learned that carbs aren't equal. So like we know that if you have jelly beans, right, it doesn't have the same impact as if you have quinoa, for example, right? So you know, you already have figured out that carbs are different, but with fat, you may not have known that fats are different also. So like most of us know now that trans fats are really bad for you, right? Those partially hydrogenated oils, but you probably didn't know that coconut oil and medium chain triglycerides could be converted so easily into ketones, right? Even if you'd heard that it was good for you, you probably didn't know that piece because it's not widely out there. This is sort of the new part of the science, is that we're starting to be able to understand the why of why some of these things have gotten so popular. So back to the Keto OS, is they found that if they took the beta-hydroxybutyrate, which is the ketone body, and they put it together with a medium chain triglyceride, fatty acid, that they could prove therapeutically that the ketone levels would be up as it would be in nutritional ketosis in less than an hour. So that was a huge, huge breakthrough. It's patented because now they could give these Navy divers a ketone supplement before they went down, and they would have therapeutic levels of ketone in their bodies no matter what they had eaten. So it's diet independent. So that is just like, you probably don't know how big that is, but this whole category of supplementation is brand new. So this is the first one on the market, and it will be a multi-billion-dollar industry. The ketone industry, in a few years, everybody will talk about it. Ketones will be in food the same way that fiber is added to food. Like, it will be the biggest supplement that we've probably ever seen, because the ability to actually produce those really beneficial ketones without having to go into starvation mode is such a gigantic breakthrough. So I've been really excited to experiment on myself, because I love that. And I've been playing with taking the supplement and changing my diet, taking the supplement, not changing my diet, like all kinds of different things to try to get at sort of all the different paths of what you can do to kind of be able to get these elevated ketones in your body. And so what we're here tonight to talk about is kind of to give you that background of ketosis and ketones, to give you a little bit of information about the supplement, and then to talk about what we're going to do in the program that's coming up next week, in case you guys want to be a part of that. So in November and December, I had about 200 clients doing a beta test of the product for me. So they took the product, they took the Keto OS, some people changed their diet, some people didn't, and they just observed what kinds of benefits they were getting. Like, I love Anne's, we'll go around in just a minute, but Anne and I had kind of a similar effect, which is an interesting one. Not everyone has this effect, but Dr. Roberts had a lot of his patients on it, and we basically just collected lots of information about how it's affecting them, how they're using it, that kind of thing. And then based on that, I created a structure for people that we're gonna roll out next week, which includes what to eat and when to take the supplement if you're going to take it. Because that's the biggest confusion out there in our beta group, is people just don't know how to use it to maximize their results. So like Sophia in the back of the room has one result that she's going for, but that might be a different result than what Anne's going for. So it's like, how do you, depending on what you want out of it, how do you maximize the effect that you're getting? Janice is an extreme athlete. I can't wait. Do you know Bill Bradley, by the way? Okay, so Janice runs these epic, long, ultra marathon 50-milers, right? 75, she's amazing. And Bill Bradley, one of my clients, he has the world record for running the Grand Canyon, Janice, rim to rim 7 times. And so when I first got this product, I called Bill's PR person, and I said, do you think Bill would take this? I want to find out what happens to him when he takes the product. And she said, yeah, he will, because he wants to lose weight and he was interested in working with me. So I had Bill start taking it, and his results have been phenomenal. He trains 30% longer when he takes the ketones before he works out. And his workouts are really intense. They're hours long. So to do 30% longer is a huge deal. And then his recovery time is much, much faster. So ketones are what are called muscle sparing. So when you have ketones in your body actually doesn't use your muscles for energy. So what happens then if you work out and you have ketones in your body is you don't have to replenish all those amino acids that you normally have to do when you work out, and your body strips the amino acids off your muscles. So there's so many implications for speeding recovery, increasing focus during workouts, like so many different athletic things.